Hello, hello, hello. Making another putty video because I don't have anyone to talk to. So I talk to my camera, and that's good too. I have a very depressed face right now where I have not been doing much artwork lately. That happens when I'm very depressed. So I'm very depressed right now during this depressed phase. It also has to do with the heating situation. I can't really turn the heater on up here. It's just a tremendous waste of electricity, and this room is large, and it takes way too long to heat it up. So I have my bedroom heated up. I have my recliner chair in there. I go in there, I get heated up. And the only thing that I can do in my room downstairs is basically be on the internet, or if I'm not on the internet, I'll be listening to music or reading. So I can't do art projects, really. I mean, I can do electronic paintings, which I do sometimes. And I also can write, and I want to pick up the book that I had been translating. I translated the book by Annalise by 1/3, and it's unedited, it's not fully complete. Not even the 1/3 is not fully complete. I will have to continue working on that. But I'm a little bit afraid to pick this up. I also translated the Zarathustra by 1/3, and I'm also a little afraid to pick that up as well. So both of these books have a lot to do with my brain and my psychology, and it's very heavy. Very heavy working on those books, extremely heavy. But that's also what interests me, but it's very heavy. And then when I'm depressed, then I almost feel like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this if no one is gonna read it? So it's extremely discouraging if I write books and then just to realize that it's just nobody is interested in it. There's just no interest in any of that stuff publicly. So it's just very discouraging. It feels like, what's the use for me doing this? There are people who don't care if someone reads their books. They just do it anyway. They do it basically for themselves. And that's also what has propelled me up to this point, and that's also why I'm doing artwork or writing anything. But it is just extremely discouraging to feel like whatever I do, it will never be seen by anyone. And maybe if it is seen by someone, what is it gonna do? Right? I mean, it's not gonna do very much for anyone out there. So that's kind of the impression that I'm getting. So I just, I feel like I have not found the right language, the right key for communication. I mean, I do my artwork and it's not there to communicate with anyone. It's just there for my own personal expression and to express that what I want to see, what I want to create, what I want to see in the world. But yeah, but it is very discouraging for me to encounter such indifference. Yeah, I'm making a video right now. So, yes, I'm making a video. It's very helpful for us when we create something that there's some kind of, that it does something to a different brain, like I create something and suddenly it does something, it speaks to someone else, so, but my artwork doesn't speak to other people. It just meets indifference, it just, people shrug their shoulders and they go, yeah, okay. It doesn't speak to anyone. It doesn't do anything for anyone, my artwork. So, I don't know, it just feels like, it feels like to me, and that's part of the depression, it feels like, what's the use? It feels like death, actually. So, when I'm not depressed and I make artwork, I'm making it for myself and it is beautiful. And if no one likes it, then yeah, that's just how it is. But it doesn't change the fact that I like it, So, and I'm never going to adapt to social standards with anything. I will never adapt. Because I don't agree with it. I don't agree with the norm. Whatever people are making the norm, whatever people are putting out there as a fashion, as the code of conduct or something, like whatever it is that people are putting out there as standards and norms, I don't agree with. It's a very isolating experience. It's very disappointing. It leaves me completely alone. That's why a lot of people, they will adapt no matter what. There's a lot of people out there, the majority of humans, they will adapt to things that are highly unbeneficial for them. They will adapt to anything. Anything. They will adapt to religion that promotes child murder, just to use one example. This is not some fictitious example. These things have actually occurred in the past, and people have latched onto it. In the Mayan and Incan religions, for example, they have thrown children into volcanoes to please God, and society adapted to that. They said, that's cool. Whatever it is, I adapt to it so that I will be liked. That's how it goes. That's how humans are. That's how they are. It doesn't sit so well with me. I'm sorry, I just can't adapt. I can't adapt to societies that say, that will say something that is completely backwards. Like people that will say that this or that religion that promotes child murder is okay. So that's their religion, we should accept that. Or traditions in Africa was where they cut deep into children's foreheads. They call it gar. I think somewhere in Gambia or somewhere. And then the society there accepts that. And the other societies around the world will accept that too. Yeah, it's their tradition. And no one dares to say anything because they don't want to be casted out of their society. No one dares to say, wait a minute, that's cruel. I don't accept that, it's cruelty. No one dares to say that because they want to be invited to their party. They don't want to be casted out of the society. They want to be accepted as mellow, as girly, as intellectual, as noble, or whatever they attribute to this, to the adaptation to the social standards and normations. I'm sorry, I'm not part of that, and never will be. Will never will be. Even if I'm alone, even if I'm a hermit, even if I will never hook up. If I tried to hook up, which I have tried in the past, and long before I had the knowledge that I have now, it didn't feel good. It didn't feel good. I remember this one party in Santa Monica. A friend of mine took me there. Jana took me there. The lady who committed suicide in 2006. She took her boyfriend, Christoph, and me to that party in Santa Monica. We got to that party and I didn't know anyone there. And there was this blonde guy with long hair. And he wanted to give me a hug. I didn't really understand why he would want to give me a hug. But me being friendly, I gave him a hug. So it didn't make any sense. So it just didn't feel like, I didn't feel like I belonged there. I felt dorky. I felt like a total alien at that party. They didn't even treat me like an outcast. I felt like an outcast. It didn't feel, the energy, the vibration, it didn't feel genuine. Even though the people there acted like kind of mellow and like leaned back and hippie-ish and everything, but it didn't feel genuine. And I remember sitting there with Christophe, Jana's boyfriend, all the way until the day she died. You know, they were together, and he was really there for her. And I'm so glad. And Jana was a light worker, so Christophe is an indigo soul, and so am I. And so we sat there at that party. Jana knew these people. She merged with them and was having a good time and talking. And I remember Christophe and we didn't know these people. We just knew this one guy, Elsar's brother, was there. And I think that's how they got to know these people, through Elsar's brother Fabrice, who had a girlfriend, and it was at his girlfriend's condo that this party was happening. And I remember Christophe and I sitting there on the floor, was next to each other, and we were talking, and we were both feeling totally cut off from that group. But not just because we didn't know these people. It was because we could sense it, that the people at that party were playing something. They were playing leaned back. See, an indigo can tell. An indigo soul has been around for long enough to be able to tell when something is genuine and when something is not genuine. Even the blonde guy, it should have been flattering that he wanted to give me a hug, and I could sense something, that he wanted something, but he felt not genuine to me. There was something not genuine. And when there is something not genuine, it doesn't sit well with me. Not even for a flirt. Even that has to be on a genuine level. So I think it is, once you enter into the indigo level, and that can take many lifetimes. Once you enter into the indigo level, which is the hardest phase there is in soul development, the hardest stage. Once you enter into this, you see these things. And that's why it is so hard. That's why it is so brutal. So when you're still a light worker, so you can kid yourself with a lot of things. And a student of life and stagnator, all of those that are still in the beginning stages. So they are able to kid themselves because they haven't been around long enough. They haven't seen things from all kinds of perspectives yet. They may not even have seen things from a dog perspective, or a cow perspective, or a woman perspective, or a man perspective, or the perspective of someone who was mistreated, or, there are many variations of experience. Stagnator soul is at the very beginning a droplet that has lifted itself off the stream of sorrow, now trying to take its journey through the infinite cosmos, probably appearing in other civilizations and dimensions, and many different existences. In a body, in a sentient body. And the whales are more sentient than we are, and the dolphins. They're more complex They feel even more. They see even more. They're clairvoyant. I believe that they have the ability to perceive thoughts. They see with their ears, for example. Dogs can smell pictures and in 3D. Dogs can perceive, they can see with their nose in the dark, in pitch darkness. And whales can see with sound in pitch darkness, in complete darkness, deep in the ocean. Elephants are able to detect things, vibrations, through the pads of their feet. They can communicate that way through over very long distances. There's a lot of animals that are highly sentient, and maybe even some of the land animals are more sentient than humans. So I would say, I would hypothesize that elephants are more sentient than humans are. Maybe dogs are too. Maybe dogs are more sentient too. It does not always necessarily require the cognitive function to be more sentient than humans. Some animals are equally sentient. Most of them are. Most mammals are equally sentient as humans, but I think some of them are more sentient. Sentient means they can perceive the same physical sensations, the same fear, the same pain, the same psychology. They perceive shame, all of these things. People need to know this. They can't just throw around words and think the dog doesn't understand it. Of course they do. On a very energetic level, they do. On the cellular level, they do, and that's what the key is here. If you perceive something on a cellular level, something that does not feel good on the cellular level, that makes you suffer, definitely. It's not just the words. It goes much deeper. It's the energy that is emitted through words. And that can be emitted with something else as well. With just a glance. With the way someone stares at someone. With what they're thinking about someone. That's why they always say if stares could kill. So I get hostile stares when I go shopping sometimes. It really has to do with how I feel. If I feel depressed, I get hated. If I feel better, then I radiate out a different energy, frequency, which is picked up by other people. So if I'm depressed, it makes people hate me. If I radiate out low self-esteem, makes people hate me. I'm trying to dig into this, why people hate kind-hearted people. Trying to understand. Maybe it's hatred that I radiate when I'm depressed. And maybe that's what they pick up, and that's what feels so bad to anyone around me. And when we're repressing emotions, these emotions aren't going away. Quite the opposite, they become worse. If I repress my anger way deep down and I rationalize it away, it's not away, it's still there. And it wants to come back with a vengeance. It pushes up even harder. It says, I want to be seen. The anger says, I want to be seen. The Medusa says, you better look at me. You better communicate with me. Because if you continue to push me away, I will push even harder. There are most people are like my mother, who are miserable and they repress these things. And then they become more miserable. It never really worked for me, so I would always, at some point, the Medusa will make its way through, and then it will come shooting up like a geyser or like a volcano. It will come up eventually. I can only push it down forcefully to a specific point. Some people are so trained in repressing it that they get physically ill. So it will push its way through this way or that way. And that's what causes the C word. It's real serious when people, particularly with the help of belief systems and social normation and social adaptation, it's very dangerous when they repress anger in themselves. Very dangerous. But it's also equally dangerous to practice the anger and to dwell in the anger and to nurture that in a way where we punch things and where we practice meanness and all of this, which some religions do. Islam, for example. So that's also dangerous, where anger is required. It's also dangerous. But that's not addressing the anger. To lash out the anger, to act out the anger on other beings, on innocent surrounding beings, animals or humans. That's an act out, which makes the anger even worse. That practices the anger act out. It just makes it worse and worse. The anger is still not seen when people do this. When people act out the anger is not communicated with. It's not being seen. The inner child is still not being seen. Quite the opposite. So it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. In order to heal this, we have to look at the anger. We have to be willing to look it into the eye and say, what do you really want to tell me here? Why are you angry and what do you want to tell me? So we need to get into that dialogue within ourselves. That's introspection. Why am I angry? Just to ask the question is already a step in the right direction. Why am I angry at all of these people? I mean, I will say, yeah, I have every right in the world to be angry at people who are hurting animals, of course. But it's important to really get into it. Of course, I have every right in the world to be angry. But I also want to dig much deeper into it. What is all going on inside of me? What's all going on? But, the anger as in self-defense, that's an intelligent reaction. That's not a festering anger. So I ask the question, why do I have a festering anger that is infected, that is boiling inside, that wants to talk to me? What is that about? There are very rational and compassionate reasons for this, of course, but I think when it goes to the point where it becomes a hatred, that's when there's emotional pain, when there's hatred. But we have no choice other than to dig deeper into it. Because then when we are actually confronted with the situation, that may be dangerous or that may be complex in some way. If we look into ourselves, then we will be more likely to act rationally and compassionately and reasonably in such an upcoming situation where things are more complex, complicated, without lashing out, without exploding or something, but to see and to seize the situation for what it is and act accordingly in order to make the situation better for everyone, for every living being involved. Okay. Introspection is all we have. Introspection is all I have. It's all I have. And to become fully aware of that is very liberating, actually. It feels raw, but it's very liberating. I have no other choice other than to introspect. I can hate the way I look in the mirror. I can plunge into an abyss of ego dissolution, of death, sort of, death of the ego. I can allow this, you know. And I can also communicate with it and ask this, why are you feeling that way? Why is it feeling so awful? Why is not being wanted by anyone, not being, yeah, being marginalized? Why does it bother me so much, you know, if my work isn't recognized? All of these things, you know, they don't owe me anything, so the public doesn't owe me anything. So once I get into that dialogue, or whatever it is for other people, once you get into that dialogue, that inner dialogue, you're on the healing path. That is my guarantee for you. And things will become more transparent and more clear. When you understand yourself better, you will also understand other people better. Not running away anymore from anything, not wanting anything anymore from someone, not struggling anymore with anyone, not getting into this game, you know, not letting anyone draw me into their game. You want to play submissive in my game? No, thank you. No, I don't. Or sadistic person says, I'm the sadistic person. You want to play the masochist in my game? Whether it's a video game or whatever it is, a social game. No, thank you. No, no. It can happen very quickly that we slide into something like this. It's an old pain. It's an old system. It happens very easily that a woman gets into the wrong relationship, as being mistreated there, and she'll rationalize this away with her religious upbringing that says women should be in the kitchen and men should be dominating them or something like this. When we get into the inner dialogue, we see things for what they are. We see the truth of it. And then we see, and the truth is that women are not doomed to the kitchen. It's the truth. The truth is that women are equally intelligent and intellectual. Okay, we even have scientific evidence for that. So there are a lot of women with an IQ of 200 out there. The person who discovered nuclear energy is a woman. So right there, just putting things out there, putting things into perspective for people to, because what people learn from their religious upbringing is they leave these kind of facts and they leave that kind of data out because it doesn't fit into their religion. It doesn't fit into the old theater play that they want to play. Religion is is the perfect theater play for the ego. The ego loves it. It's all meant well to defend the inner child, to defend the person later on, to protect the person from feeling the childhood pain. If they make their present life as bad as the past, then they never have to look at the past, right? Because it's just like Ernie and Bert in Sesame Street. When Bert complains and says, the I can't sleep because the faucet is dripping, and Ernie goes and turns on the vacuum cleaner, and he says, why did you do that? No, I really can't sleep. He says, because you complained about the faucet dripping. If I turn the vacuum cleaner on, you don't have to hear the faucet dripping anymore. Well, that's what we do with our brains. That's what we do with religion. You turn the vacuum cleaner on. Then you don't have to see your childhood pain anymore. You watch horror films or you go to war, and you don't have to see your childhood pain anymore. You have drowned it out with the overkill of the present situation. That's one way to do it, but I don't think that's the right way to go about things. That's certainly not the right way to make the world a better place. The only way to make the world a better place is if we stop the struggle, the war, the act outs, the theater plays, the psychological theater plays. Stop all of that. The violence, all of that. The greed, it's all part of that. Stop that. Stop all of that. And breathe and introspect. And ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? What's going to happen if you can't buy yourself the custom-made outfit from the highest of all highest couturiers in the world? What's going to happen if you don't buy that? What's going to happen if you go to Walmart and buy yourself an outfit there? What's going to happen if that... this is just one example. What's going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? Your friends, they're going to look down on you. You might feel like you don't belong anymore in that society. You'll feel like you don't amount to anything. You feel like a zero, right? If you don't have that. So that suit defines who you are, right? Wow. It doesn't define who you are. You're still the same person underneath the suit. You're still in the space suit that you are with your cells. And they are precious. They are equally precious to the cells of the Dalai Lama, Scarlett Johansson, Pamela Anderson, Paul Watson. What's his name? Seagull, that actor. Henry Rollins, the singer. We're all equal. Our cells are equally precious. That's something that people really need to understand. that our cells are all equally precious. The tree cells are equally precious to your cells, to the dog cells, to the Pope cells, and everyone. They're all equally precious. That includes the psychopath. Because the psychopath's body cells and brain cells, I've said it many times, I'll say it until the day I die. Your body and brain cells do not want to hurt another living being. That decision comes from the ego, and that's not a demon. The ego is fear. Okay, it's a fear energy. It is a short circuit reaction from fear. The fear could be, oh, they're not gonna see me as valuable, and if they don't, then I'm gonna fall into an abyss. So I better buy that suit from that couturier. That's the ego, that's fear. That has nothing to do with the truth of who you are. Your body cells that don't want to hurt anyone. That's just one out of many examples. Happens a lot in the world. Okay. Another one is the hunter. That the hunter is Donald Trump's sons. So they must have felt so incredibly devastated about themselves. Like there must have been so much pain inside. Maybe from the mother. Father was also very occupied with work. That's just what they are. They're constantly working. But I know Donald Trump was always loved everyone equally much. But maybe the mother was too occupied with her looks and with her own ego and fear and all of this. And then when she's too occupied with her own looks and her appearance and her prestige, then she doesn't see the children. And so maybe that's when you're not soul evolved like Ivanka and Donald, when they're angel level, it's very high level. When you're not soul evolved like this, then, and you are not seen as a baby, then chances are very high that the ego will then come up with something that feels very urgent to them, like what the two sons did. They went to Africa and they trophy hunted animals. And maybe they're still doing it. So my message to you out there is I have gold here to give to you with these videos. This is not an affront against you. It's not even an affront against anything. It just gives you the truth of it. The truth is that your brain cells and your body cells don't want to kill an elephant and let him bleed there after taking his tusk. They don't want to do that. But what does it is the ego that has blinded you from every emotion, that has blinded you from seeing that elephant and his high sentience and his family connection and the love they have for each other. And they need each other, they need their daddy. The ego has cut you off from that. So you can't see the daddy elephant anymore. And the sentience and the grief that you're causing them. You can't see that anymore. Because you've blinded yourself through your fear and your ego and And that what the short circuit reaction of trophy hunting to boost your social esteem in the society where the majority of people are like that themselves. That's why they created such a society. That's why they have such thing as the, what's it called, Sahara Club, or the trophy hunting club, or whatever, where they do things that are such abomination that there are other societies, trust me on that, that look down on that. And if they are not fully conscious about things, at least there are some societies where that goes against their fad, and they look down on it. So it's better when it is a good fad than if there is no good done at all. So it's better to do good out of consciousness and awareness, but it's still better to do good out of a fad than not do good. I hope that makes sense. And there are societies that find that absolutely despicable. For whatever reason, they find that despicable. It could be religious, could be a social fact, whatever. And maybe in some cases it's for the right reasons, which is, hey, this is unethical, okay? But I see the clear picture. I see that humans on this planet, I see over 80% that are completely cut off from ethics, from kindness, from real compassion. And they do all kinds of idiotic, crazy things against themselves and against other beings, out of ego and out of that fear. The fear of not fitting in, the fear of rejection, the fear of not being invited, the fear of not getting that boyfriend or that girlfriend or whatever. They put all of this above the ethics, because they don't even see the ethics. So that's why it's so extremely important to teach ethics. If you can share my videos with other people, you help ethics along. Or make your own video and talk about it. Don't copy it, talk about it in your own words, okay? And bring the message of love, ethics, and compassion forward to other people, so that more and more people hear it. They're not going to hear it through their religions. They're not going to hear it in their schools. It's gotten a little bit better, but just a little bit better. That's not enough. We need to move this forward. We need to move love forward in a much faster speed. Okay, it's very, very important that you guys help me with this. I cannot do this alone. I'm actually suppressed. My videos are suppressed. My videos are held backstage. They are not promoted. If you're my friend, promote it. Promote the message. It doesn't have to be my videos. It's not about me. Right? It's about the message. If you can make a video about this, about ethics, if you get it, you make a video about it, or you write a blog, you can do that in anonymity. You write a blog, you promote that blog. You talk to people about this. You go out in the world and you talk to people about this, in person or in the anonymity of internet, with a fake name and photo. It could be a photo of your artwork or of a flower or tree. But go out there and promote that message of love and compassion.